Before we begin, share your own grandma stories in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe so we can keep these memories alive together. They always thought I was simple, not cruel about it. Not most of the time. Just dismissive in that gentle, pitying way people get when they think you're not quite keeping up. My brother Owen would speak slowly around me, enunciating like I was hard of hearing. My sister Diane would smile and nod when I talked. That patient smile you give a child telling you about their imaginary friend. I'm 47 years old. I have Down syndrome. And for most of my life, I let them believe I understood less than I did. It was easier that way. Our father, Richard Kowalski, died on a Tuesday in March. Lung cancer, though he never smoked a day in his life. Life's funny like that, cruelly funny. He was 79, and until the diagnosis 8 months earlier, he'd been the kind of old man who still climbed ladders to clean his own gutters and drove himself to the hardware store every Saturday morning like clockwork. I was the one taking care of him at the end, not Owen, who lived 40 minutes away in a house with 5 bedrooms and a 3-car garage. Not Diane, who video called twice a week from Phoenix and said things like, "I wish I could be there. But you know how it is with Marcus's job and the kids' schedules." Me, Elena, the simple one. I moved back into Dad's house in October when he couldn't manage the stairs anymore. I learned to crush his pills into applesauce, to help him to the bathroom at 2 in the morning, to read him the newspaper when his eyes got too tired. I learned the exact angle to prop his pillows so he could breathe easier, and which old westerns he wanted to watch when the pain got bad. "You're good at this, sweetheart," he told me once, his voice thin as tissue paper. "You've got a gift for taking care of people." I smoothed his blanket and didn't say what I was thinking. That maybe I was good at it because I'd spent my whole life watching people, learning to read the things they didn't say. When you're underestimated, you become a careful observer. You have to. The morning he died, I was holding his hand. It was just us. He'd been sleeping most of the previous day, and I knew you just know that it wouldn't be long. I sat beside his bed and held his hand and sang him the old Polish lullaby his mother used to sing. I don't know if he heard me. I hope he did. Owen arrived 2 hours after Dad took his last breath. Diane flew in the next day. The funeral was small. Dad hadn't wanted a fuss. I picked out his suit, the navy one he'd worn to my high school graduation. Owen gave the eulogy and cried in that loud, theatrical way that made people pat his shoulder. Diane handed out programs and accepted condolences with the practiced grace of someone who'd learned to perform grief. I sat in the front row and felt the full weight of it. Quiet and enormous. The reading of the will happened the following week. We met at the office of Martin Greenberg, Dad's attorney for 30-some years. The office smelled like old books and lemon furniture polish. Martin was in his 70s himself, with bushy eyebrows and a kind face. He'd known us since we were kids. "Thank you all for coming," Martin said, settling behind his desk. "I know this is difficult." Richard was a good man, Owen nodded solemnly. Diane dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. I folded my hands in my lap and waited. Martin opened a folder and pulled out several documents. "Richard updated his will 6 months ago," he said. He was very clear about his wishes. I saw Owen and Diane exchange a glance. Quick. Barely there. But I caught it. Martin cleared his throat. "The house and all its contents go to Elena, along with the entirety of Richard's savings and investment accounts. The total estate is valued at approximately $1.2 million. The silence that followed was the kind you could drown in. "What?" Diane's voice cracked on the word. Owen leaned forward. "There must be some mistake." "There's no mistake," Martin said quietly. "Richard was of sound mind when he made these changes. I can assure you the will is ironclad." But Diane looked at me, then back at Martin. "Elena can't manage that kind of money. She doesn't understand. She won't understand the will anyway," Owen interrupted. Dad must have been confused. "The cancer, the medications." Martin's expression hardened slightly. "Your father was completely lucid. We had multiple conversations about this. He knew exactly what he was doing." "This is insane." Owen's face was reddening. "She can't live alone. She can't handle finances." "We're the ones who..." He stopped himself. But we all knew what he'd been about to say. "We're the ones who matter." "There is a letter," Martin said. He pulled out an envelope, My name written on the front in Dad's shaky handwriting. Richard asked that Elena read this privately. He handed it across the desk. I took it, the paper trembling slightly in my hands. Not because I was scared, because I was angry. We'll contest this, Diane said, standing abruptly. We have every right to. You can try, Martin said. But I'll tell you now, you won't win, and the attempt will cost you more than you'll gain. I stood too, still holding the letter. Can I go? Martin nodded. Of course, Elena. I walked out of that office with my brother and sister's steers burning into my back. I didn't open the letter until I got home. Dad's home. My home now. I sat at the kitchen table, the same one where we'd eaten 1,000 dinners, where Dad had taught me to play cribbage and let me help him with his crossword puzzles. My hands were steady when I unfolded the paper. My dearest Elena, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry for that, sweetheart. I'm sorry I couldn't stay longer. I need to tell you some things. I need you to understand why I did what I did. Your brother and sister are good people, I think, but they never saw you the way I did. They never understood how much you notice, how much you understand. They treated you like a child who needed protecting, when what you really needed was the same respect they gave each other. I watched you these past months. The way you took care of me, the patience, the gentleness, the strength it took. You never complained. You never made me feel like a burden. You read to me. You made me laugh. You held my hand when I was scared. Owen visited twice. Diane called. They love me. I know they do. But they weren't there. You were. The money. The house. It's not a reward, Elena. It's what you deserve. You gave up months of your life for me. You'll probably give up more, dealing with the aftermath of this decision. But here's what I need you to know. You are not simple. You are not less than. You are capable and strong and smarter than anyone gives you credit for. I should have told them that more when I was alive. I should have made them see you. This is me telling them now. The house is yours because you made it a home again in my last days. The money is yours because you earned it with every meal you cooked, every pill you measured, every night you woke up to check on me. Don't let them convince you otherwise. Don't let them make you doubt yourself. And Elena, thank you for everything, for being exactly who you are. I love you more than all the stars. Dottie cried then. Hard, messy crying that shook my whole body. Not sad crying, though there was sadness in it, but the kind of crying that comes from being seen, really seen, maybe for the first time in your life. Owen called that evening. I almost didn't answer. Elena, we need to talk. Okay. This thing with the will. Dad wasn't thinking clearly. You have to understand that. We're not trying to hurt you. We're trying to protect you. From what? From people who might take advantage. From making mistakes with money. Elena, that's over $1 million. You can't just. You need help with this. I can read, I said quietly. What? I can read, Owen. I can count. I can use a computer. I've been managing Dad's bills for 6 months. I know how much things cost. There was a pause. Elena, did you know Dad was afraid of dying alone? Another pause, longer. What? He told me one night when he couldn't sleep. He said he was scared he'd die alone, and no one would notice for days. He made me promise I wouldn't leave him. Elena, I had work. Diane has her family. We couldn't just drop everything. I dropped everything, I said. I quit my job at the library. I left my apartment. I was here every single day for 6 months. Every day, Owen. That's different. You don't have the same responsibilities. I had a life, I said, and my voice was stronger than I expected. I had friends. I had routines. I had things I liked to do. I gave them up because Dad needed me. We appreciate that. But do you? Because it feels like you appreciate it until there's money involved. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I'd never spoken to Owen like that. I'd never spoken to anyone like that. I'd spent my whole life being accommodating, being easy, being the one who didn't make waves. But Dad's letter was still on the table, and his words were still in my head. Don't let them convince you otherwise. Diane showed up the next morning. No call. Just knocked on the door at 8 a.m. with coffee and croissants like we were about to have a nice sisterly chat. Can I come in? I let her. It was still strange, thinking of the house as mine, having the power to let people in or keep them out. We sat at the kitchen table. Diane pushed a coffee toward me. Elena, I'm worried about you. I'm fine. This is a lot to deal with. A house, finances, legal matters. I think Owen and I should help. We could set up a trust, get you a financial advisor, make sure everything's managed properly. Managed by who? By professionals. People who understand these things. Do you think I'm stupid, Diane? She blinked. Of course not. I would never. You just said I don't understand things. That I need other people to manage my life. That's not what I meant. Elena, you have to be realistic. Someone with your condition, Down syndrome, I said. You can say it. Her cheeks flushed. Someone with Down syndrome might need extra support with complex financial matters. That's all I'm saying. I took a sip of coffee. It was good she'd remembered how I liked it. That small kindness made everything harder. Dad left me a letter, I said. I know. Martin mentioned it. Did he mention what was in it? No, that's private. I got up and retrieved the letter from where I'd left it on the counter. I handed it to her. Read it, Elena. I don't think read it. She did. I watched her face as she read, watched the expressions shift: confusion, discomfort, something that might have been shame. When she finished, she folded it carefully and set it on the table. Dad was emotional at the end, she said finally. He wasn't thinking about the practical aspects, he was thinking clearly, I said. Clearer than he'd been in years, probably. He saw what was happening, Diane. He saw that you and Owen loved him. But you weren't here. I was. We had lives to live. We had responsibilities. So did I. It's not the same. Why? I leaned forward. Why isn't it the same? Because my life is smaller? Because my job wasn't as important? Because I don't have a husband and kids? That's not fair. None of this is fair. My voice rose, surprising both of us. It's not fair that Dad got sick. It's not fair that he died. It's not fair that you two got to keep your lives while I put mine on hold. And it's really not fair that now you want to swoop in and take the one thing Dad left me because you think I'm too simple to handle it. Diane's eyes filled with tears. We're family, Elena. Family takes care of each other. I took care of Dad, I said. Where were you? She didn't have an answer for that. She left 20 minutes later, the croissants untouched on the table. They tried to contest the will anyway. It took 3 months and cost them, according to Martin, about $40,000 in legal fees. The judge reviewed Dad's medical records, interviewed Martin and Dad's doctors, and determined that Richard Kowalski had been of completely sound mind when he made his final wishes known. The will stood. Owen sent me an email after the ruling. It was long and full of words like disappointed and family unity, and Dad would be heartbroken to see us fighting like this. He didn't apologize. He didn't acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, they'd been wrong. Diane didn't contact me at all. I still live in Dad's house. My house! I repainted the living room a soft yellow that makes the morning light even prettier. I turned Dad's study into a craft room. I've taken up quilting. Something I'd always wanted to try but never had space for in my old apartment. I hired Martin to help me set up proper financial management. I have a checking account, a savings account, and investments that I actually understand because I asked questions until I did. Once a month, I meet with a financial advisor, my choice, my decision, not someone else managing my life. I volunteer at the library twice a week. I take a cooking class on Thursdays. I adopted a cat named Pepper who sleeps on my bed and purrs like a motorboat. I have a life. My life. Sometimes I think about calling Owen or Diane. Sometimes I almost do. But then I remember the way they looked at me in Martin's office, the way they spoke about me like I wasn't even there, the way they fought for money they didn't need, from a father they'd barely visited. And I remember Dad's letter. You are not simple. You are not less than. I kept that letter. It's in a frame on my bedroom dresser, where I see it every morning. Some days I still need the reminder. Some days I still hear that old voice in my head, the one that says I'm not enough, that I don't understand, that I need other people to make decisions for me. But then I look around at this house that's mine, at the life I've built, at the choices I've made, and I think I understood perfectly. Dad, I understood everything. It's been 2 years now. Last week, I got a card in the mail. No return address, but I recognized Diane's handwriting. Inside, just 4 words. I'm sorry. Love, Diane. I put the card on my refrigerator, held up by a magnet Dad brought back from a trip to Yellowstone years ago. I don't know if I'll call her. I don't know if the hurt is something we can come back from, but I kept the card. And maybe that's a start. Maybe forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened. Maybe it's about understanding that people are complicated, that they make mistakes, that love and cruelty can somehow exist in the same gesture. Dad taught me that, in a way. He taught me a lot of things in those last months. How to be strong, how to stand up for myself, how to take up space in my own life. Most importantly, he taught me that being underestimated isn't a weakness. It's only a weakness if you believe it yourself. I don't believe it anymore. I'm Elena Kowalski. I'm 47 years old. I have Down syndrome. I own a house, manage my own finances, and live a life that's entirely, beautifully mine. And I understand everything just fine. Sometimes in the evening, when the light slants through the windows just right, I sit in Dad's old chair, my chair now, and think about that day in Martin's office. The shock on Owen's face, the outrage in Diane's voice. She won't understand the will anyway. I smile when I remember it. Not a bitter smile, though there's some of that too. Mostly it's the smile of someone who knows something others don't. The smile of someone who's been underestimated their whole life and finally got the last word. I understood the will perfectly. And they lost everything, not the money, though that stung them. I'm sure. They lost something more important. They lost the chance to see me for who I really am. They lost the opportunity to treat me with respect while it mattered. They lost their father's final blessing, given not to the successful son or the devoted daughter, but to the simple one who showed up, who kept showing up, who loved him enough to stay. I trace the arm of the chair, worn smooth by years of Dad's hand resting there. I can almost feel him here sometimes, almost hear his laugh, almost smell his aftershave. I hope you're proud of me, Dad. I say to the empty room. The house settles around me, creaking in that familiar way. The late afternoon light pulls on the hardwood floor. Pepper winds around my ankles, purring, and I know, with a certainty that lives deep in my bones, that he is